All right, today we're going to tackle a 3-mark graphical inequalities question from a recent GCSE paper. We're going to go through it step by step, and we're going to use the official mark scheme to see exactly how you grab every single one of those marks.
All right, let's jump right in. Here's the 3-mark challenge we're going to break down together.
So here's the mission. We've got to find and shade one single region, which they're calling R, that satisfies 4 different inequalities. Let's take a look. We've got x is less than or equal to 2. Y is greater than or equal to -3, y is less than or equal to 2x plus 1, and 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 6. Nail this, and that's a full 3 marks in the bag.
So what we need to do is get these inequalities onto the grid as lines. We'll start by pretending each one is just a simple equation. Come on, let's get plotting.
Okay, time to draw some lines. Let's start with the boundaries. And you know what? The first 2 are actually the easiest ones, which is a nice way to start. So first up, we have x is less than or equal to 2. Now to get that on the graph, the first thing you want to do is just think about the line where x equals 2.
And there you have it. The line x equals 2 is just a simple vertical line going straight through the number 2 on the x-axis. And hey, notice that it's a solid line, right? Not a dashed one? That's super important because the inequality says less than or equal to. That solid line tells us that any point right on the line is included in our answer.
Okay, next up is the second one. Y is greater than or equal to -3. And I bet you can guess what this is going to look like. Yep, it's a horizontal line, this time at y equals -3.
And boom, there it is. A solid horizontal line cutting through -3 on the y-axis. Now here's the cool part. Check this out. According to the official mark scheme, just by drawing these 2 lines correctly, at least 2 correct boundaries is the exact wording, you've already banked your first method mark. That's M1 in the bag. How great is that?
All right, let's get to our first diagonal line. Y is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. Now for this one, we can't just draw a straight vertical or horizontal line. We need to find a couple of coordinates to make sure we plot the line y equals 2x plus 1 perfectly.
You know, the easiest way to do this is to just pick some simple x values. Let's try x is 0. So y would be 2 times 0 plus 1, which is just 1. Okay, so our first point is 0, 1. Easy enough. Now let's pick another one. Say x equals 2. So y is 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1. That gives us 5. So our second point is 2, 5. Perfect. Now we just connect the dots.
So we pop those points on the graph, 0, 1, and 2, 5, and draw a nice solid line right through them. See that? The grid is really starting to get chopped up into different zones now. We've just got one more boundary left to draw.
Okay, last one. Our final boundary is 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 6. You know, a really slick way to plot a line like this is to figure out where it hits the x and y axes, the intercepts. So let's find the y-intercept first. We can do that by just setting x to 0. That gives us 2y equals 6, which, pretty simple, y equals 3. So that's the point 0, 3. Now for the x-intercept, we'll do the opposite and set y to 0. That leaves us with 3x equals 6, which means x equals 2. And there's our second point, 2, 0. So we draw our last solid line through 0, 3 and 2, 0. And this is brilliant because it shows you exactly how the marks are awarded. The mark scheme literally says that for drawing the remaining 2 correct boundaries, you get a second M1 mark. So just by drawing the lines, we've already got 2 out of the 3 marks locked in. We're almost there. Okay, so we've got all 4 of our boundary lines on the grid. And you can see they've created a bunch of different enclosed areas. The big question is, which one of these little shapes is the region R we're actually looking for? And this is the million-dollar question, right? How on earth do we know which side of each line we're supposed to be on? We need to find that one magic spot where all 4 conditions are met at the same time.
Well, there's a really simple trick for this. It's called using a test point. And honestly, as long as none of your lines go smack through the middle, the origin, the point 0, 0, is the absolute easiest one to use. Why? Because the math becomes dead simple. So what we're going to do is plug x equals 0 and y equals 0 into all 4 of our original inequalities and see what happens. All right, let's run the tests. First up, x is less than or equal to 2. If we put 0 in, is 0 less than or equal to 2? Yep, that's true. Okay, 1 down. Next, y is greater than or equal to -3. Is 0 greater than or equal to -3? You bet, that's true too. Third one,
y is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. That becomes 0 is less than or equal to 1. Still true. And finally, 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 6. That just becomes 0 is less than or equal to 6. True again. Look at that. The point 0, 0 works for every single one. So what does that mean? It means our region R must be the one that has the origin inside it.
Okay, so now we have all the pieces. The crucial last step is putting it all together, finding that one specific region and grabbing that final, all-important mark. And there it is. That central shape, the one that contains our test point 0, 0, that's our guy. We shade that in. And don't forget, this is so important. The question tells us to label it R. So we pop a big R right in the middle. That right there is our full, complete answer. So let's just do a final check against that mark scheme. Did we get the first M1? Yes, for drawing at least 2 correct boundaries. Did we get the second M1? Yes, for drawing the remaining 2 correct boundaries. And did we get the final C1 mark, that's the communication mark? Yes, for having a correct region R clearly identified. We've literally ticked every single box.
You know, I really want to double down on this last bit from the mark scheme. That phrase, clearly identified, is everything. Just shading it in, not good enough. You have to label it with an R. It sounds so small, but trust me, it's such an easy mark to throw away if you're rushing at the end of an exam. And that is how you walk away with all 3 marks on a question like this. That test point technique is an absolute lifesaver. So the thing I want to leave you with is this. What would you do if one of your lines went right through the origin and you couldn't use 0, 0? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.